Well, everybody's has a story, I guess, where their life kind of changed. You wake up one morning and before the end of the day, you knew that your life has changed and will never be the same again. The picture of me and my husband, and I'm amazed at that big hair. But that goes back to 1990. Uh, my husband, in this particular time, we were on probably one of the trips of our lives. We were in Greece, and
Mm.
prior to leaving this trip, we had won this trip through our business. All expense paid, red carpet treatment,
With Shaklee,
food.
right?
I mean, it was amazing. And this was in May, but a few months before that, well, actually a few weeks before this trip, he woke up. My husband woke up. He was 47. He woke up with a knot on the side of his neck. And due to the fact that my mother had lymphoma at the time, when I saw the knot, it scared me. But he
Mm.
had been spraying pecan trees at his farm that day, and he thought something had bit him. But on Monday, we went to the doctor, and the doctor again didn't think it was anything to be concerned about. And we had this trip coming up, and so he insisted we go on this trip. So this picture is pretty significant to me because this was our last trip together. The only indication that he was seriously ill was that one night we had this amazing dinner at a palace there in Austria, and he got up and left the table and was gone for quite a while. And when one of the men went to check on him, he had been just a little nauseated and sick. So obviously the symptoms were beginning. And when we got home from the trip on May 28th, he was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and was dead a year later. And so
Wow.
we had been married almost 30 years at that time. So you can tell that I was a very young bride. We married very young. So we had built our business and grown together. And I was 46 and he was 48 when he passed away in 1991.
And is this business you're referring to your Shaklee business or your mobile home building business?
Oh, that was mobile. I didn't even know about Shaklee. I wish that I had known about Shaklee. I
So,
have a feeling the outcome would have been very, very different if
so
I had.
he passed away before your Shaklee business.
Oh, yes. I'd never even heard of Shaklee.
And I
And
see the next image. We can get back to your story with him in a bit. Your next image is with Jack. He's one of your big whys, correct? And your why you build this business.
yeah,
And
this is definitely my big why. Jack is now 15, and when Jack was born, he actually was born um, after my daughter had been married for almost 11 years, and Jack has Down syndrome and had this hearing impaired. And now I knew that Shackley was in my life because of Jack. So when Jack was a tiny baby and we got the diagnosis, within I think 4 days or maybe a little more, he was already taking Shackley. So we were mashing up little pieces of Herblax and different things and putting in his Shackley formulas that we were making. And
right,
my
let me.
daughter Reese's my child, and she got married in 19. Well, she got married right after her dad died, a few months after her dad passed away.
Right. And I'll just back up for a minute for some folks who may not know Ellen, just to give some context here. So Ellen's been in Shaklee for 25 years. She got to the point where she was not sure whether she was even going to continue Shaklee, give it up, whatnot. And maybe just quickly, we can get into a bit more depth a little bit later, but what was it that initially brought you to us? You were struggling with your business, and I think you said you were kind of just trying to hang in around 2000. Just share
Yeah,
quickly.
yeah. Like I said, I had been at the time. I've been with Freedom Project now 4 years. It's hard to believe, but November this month, actually, I've been with Freedom Project 4 years. I started Shackley a couple of years after my husband died, when I was looking for an opportunity or looking for a solution to lower my triglycerides and cholesterol without using a drug, because I had horrible family history of heart disease in my family and had seen so many people die. I decided that I didn't want to go that route, so I began to look for an alternative. So I had been doing Shaklee. I'd been in Shaklee almost 21 years when I was introduced to YFP. I've spent almost 11 years after my husband passed away, and I spent almost 11 years on the mission field. And Theresa had been married for quite a few years and had no children. So I needed something to give my life meaning again. And so when I began to work in orphanages in Russia, my life had meaning again. But in 2003, I was home briefly from Russia, and Theresa was came over to visit and said, "Mom, I think I'm pregnant." She'd been married almost 11 years. And so when this little boy came into our lives, I just decided that I had to be on this side of the ocean. So I came back, and within 4 months of Jack being born, his father basically decided that he needed to move on. So Theresa was left to raise this little boy, and I needed to be here for her and also for him. And so we were looking at her going back to work, me taking care of Jack, which seems like a much harder job. So I decided Shaklee was an easier job. So I love.
And she's one of the reasons you got into Shaklee, right? Because she introduced you to a league.
Yeah, my Shaklee story is really unique because Theresa was working in another city in a gift shop, and a lady that sold Shaklee came in, and as all Shaklee distributors, every time she talked to Theresa, she was talking to her about Shaklee. And Theresa,
right,
we already used vitamins. We had been using vitamins for, I started giving her vitamins when she was a child, so we had always been used some kind of vitamins, but we really never saw any difference. And she just said to me, "You know, Mom, to get her to shut up, I finally bought a bottle of Vital E." And she said, "I don't know what it is, but there's something different about this vitamin." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And she said, "Well, all of my symptoms that she was dealing with have gone away." And she said, "Why don't you call her and see what they have for cholesterol and triglycerides?" And so that's how I was introduced to Shaklee. And after starting the Shaklee products, and I'm the only one on my father's side that has lived beyond 60, and I'll be 74 my next birthday. So
wow,
that is such an accolade to Shaklee, because I started taking Shaklee, and it lowered my cholesterol and triglycerides. Within 30 days, I had amazing lab work. And so that's what sparked me to use the products. And then, of course, later, to support my mission work and other things that I needed to do, I started sharing Shaklee.